Yo, Elliot!
Good morning, fellas. Apparently our friend Mr. Tequin has torn both, I repeat, both biceps femoris, or hamstrings, while in spring ball for football. So the season's right here. He's somewhat healed, and he wants to be able to play this year. He needs some exercises to correct the situation so that he no longer tears his hamstring during football season. Otherwise, there it is. He's lost his ability to do what he loves, play football and earn a scholarship, or, the entire rest of your life is in balance with your hamstrings, with your hamstring imbalance. So, first thing we've got to consider, and when I answer all of your questions, I have to make a shitload of assumptions. That's why some of you guys get mad, like, how the fucking Elliot Hulse say that? And like, where does he come up with this shit? Well, I got to make assumptions. So I got to make two basic assumptions, or my option is between two basic assumptions with regard to your hamstrings. The very first thing you need to know before I give you my assumptions is that your hip positioning, the way your hips are positioned, either tilted forward too much or tilted back too much, right? You'll know that it's tilted forward a lot because your butt will you'll be one of these guys that have like a really big arch in your low back and your butt sort of sticks out, or if it tilts under too much, basically your butt slides underneath and you look like Pink Panther, right? You just got no butt, right? So I've got to assume you're one or the other because it is your hip positioning that's going to affect the sequencing of muscular activation during your sprint, right? And if your hips are tilted one way in either direction too far, you're going to have poor sequencing and you're going to continue to injure yourself, right? So I can show you how to heal a hamstring, or we could look at your biomechanics, right? So from that perspective, you got to understand that there are two general muscle imbalances, right? The first one is, like I described before, your butt sticks out way too much. That means your hamstrings are probably too loose. They're long and they become taut. And when they're long and taut, you try to activate them, especially if there's a fight going on between your hamstrings and your hip flexors, right? They should be basically equally strong and working together. But if you're tilted forward and you got those long hamstrings, your hip flexors and your quads are overpowering the movement and will rip on the weak hamstrings. So your hamstrings are too weak. The other end of the spectrum is that your hamstrings are too tight. And because they're pulled down so under, they're so hypertonic, they're really hyperactive and they contract so much that you can injure them, right? Tearing would probably happen with the former rather than the latter, but anyway, wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. If you are the second of the two, you've got that really tight hamstring, butt tucked under, looks like you have no ass, then you're gonna wanna stretch your hamstrings, namely your upper hamstrings, right? That's what's affecting the hips. Lower hamstrings will probably be tight also, but it's your upper hamstrings that you're gonna need to know how to stretch. I've done videos about how to do wall sits that help you stretch your upper hamstrings. You guys, you just search my channel. Some of you want me to annotate. Look, I make like 3 videos a day. I'm not gonna go annotate every single one of them. Use the search function up above, right up there, and search hamstrings or some shit like that. And I've got videos about how to stretch your upper hamstrings. Or just Google it, right? But anyway, so I'm going to leave that one aside because my assumption is that you've got the Donald Duck or the big butt situation where your hamstrings are weak. So when strengthening weak hamstrings that are prone to injury, you gotta understand, especially sprinting injury, you gotta understand that the hamstrings help both your hips and your knees. They help hip extension during your sprint, right? Because you're upright, and they also support knee flexion. So when you train the hamstrings, I'm gonna show you an exercise now, but when you train the hamstrings, especially for athletic performance, you've gotta consider that they are helping the hips extend while the knee, or flex and extend, while the knees, it's supporting the knees in flexion and extension. So you want an exercise, and there are not too many of them, that support flexion and extension at the hamstrings. Well, the hamstrings supporting flexion and extension of the hips and the knees. So anyway, I'm gonna show you an exercise. Most gyms today have, follow me, most gyms today have that ball right there, right? See, that's a Swiss ball. And you can make fun of the dudes that are using it and say that they're doing yoga or they're yoga balls and shit like that. But the fact is that the exercise I'm gonna show you right now, if you're suffering from perpetual hamstring injury, is gonna support you, especially if you play a sport where you're sprinting, right? So bear with me. I don't have a cameraman today, so I'm gonna try to position this right. Pay attention to the cues that I'm gonna give you. Doing exercises is one thing, guys. You know, a lot of you guys do fucking exercises. But doing them with the cues I'm gonna share with you, because that's my job, I'm a coach. I cue people. In order to make them do things properly, is going to be key. So, where can I go so you guys can see this? All right. Boom, you're gonna want the ball under your heels. Important that the toes point up. You're gonna take your hand with your palms up, right? Because palms up is coupled with thoracic extension or external rotation of the upper arm, thoracic extension, so it's gonna support your posture. From here, keeping your toes together, you wanna squeeze your butt real tight. Make sure your ass is activated. Squeeze your butt, pull the ball up underneath with your knees, and extend. A lot of guys do this, and here's what they look like. Wrong way to do it. You want to support hip extension. As you get good, you want to be able to do it with one leg. So that's it. Add that exercise to your routine. If you're doing a complex, an integrated movement pattern like a squat or a deadlift, add that at the end of your workout. Good luck, dude.
Yo, Elliot,